Welcome to another episode of the Filmotomy podcast. I am joined today by three of my cohorts, Steve Schweighofer.
Hello.
Daniel Smith-Rousey.
Hello.
And Jonathan Holmes.
Hi, folks.
And today we are sans Robin, our lovely host. Well, anyway, so tonight we have two major topics to discuss. Those being, of course, the early awards that have started with the National Board of Review that was at the end of November, just after Thanksgiving. And then we're going to talk about that through the Critics' Choice nominations that just came out this week. Now, I know today there was a whole slew of regional awards, such as the San Francisco and I think Boston and a whole bunch of others. But there's just too many of those to discuss today. Plus, I just feel like the other ones have a higher profile. Would you guys agree with that?
Oh, definitely.
And then after that, we're going to make our quick little predictions about what we think will be some of the nominations for tomorrow morning's Golden Globe nominations, which is very exciting. And I especially am looking forward to seeing what 5 get nominated for Best Comedy or Musical, especially since Get Out is available this year in that category.
Right.
We will finish off with a discussion about the career of Steven Spielberg, since this week on Filmotomy will be the Steven Spielberg week. So, so it feels like, here's the interesting thing about talking about Spielberg. That feels like a conversation that could go on for like 2 hours.
Easily.
Yeah. So do we just want to, like, for the sake of time, do we just kind of want to cover, like, just our absolute favorites or just kind of feelings about his career, the person?
I think the important thing about him is the impact that he's had on the industry.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, he is by far and away one of the most influential.
Like, he's not my favorite director. Some of his stuff I really don't like at all. But some of it, when he's on his game, then there's nobody better.
Right.
Like the first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan, most of Schindler's List, Close Encounters is one of my favorites. Jaws. The best thing to happen to him was that shark didn't work, because I think he had to pull out his bag of tricks for a young guy just starting out and make that go for suspense instead of carnage.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. What are you guys? Let's just start with, what are you guys' favorite Spielberg films, or single favorite Spielberg film?
Oh, that's difficult.
Yeah, that's a hard question to answer. They're different for reasons.
I know for me,
it depends on the day. Honestly, there are some days I think my absolute favorite is probably Munich, just because of the topics covered, and then other days it's Schindler's List when I actually decided to watch the damn movie.
Mm-hmm.
I can't fault any moment of Schindler's List. I mean, it's so well done. So I guess that. Although, I don't know, Raiders of the Lost Ark's a great film. It's a perfect film in its own way. Yeah.
Raiders is a really fun movie. One of my favorite things that I like about Spielberg is the way that he can come out with a summer blockbuster and then a winter drama in the same year.
The man's got 4 faces. I've noticed doing Genre Blast for the last year. He's got his histories. He's got his serials, which is the Jaws, the Jurassic Parks, the Indy Jones. He's got his sci-fi one-ofs like E.T. and War of the Worlds, Close Encounters.
Minority Report.
Little things like Catch Me If You Can and The Terminal.
Yeah.
That's that's fair. 4 faces. That is accurate.
So do we think that, obviously he cemented himself already as one of the greatest directors of all time. I mean, if there was a Mount Rushmore, he would be on it, right?
Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
He's probably the most popular film director ever.
It's interesting because he is a household name, even though he's only a film director, which is not something you can really say about almost any other film director. I mean, people like us, we know who Paul Thomas Anderson is, but most of America doesn't. You know what I mean? Like Steven Spielberg. Like if a kid is just playing with a movie camera, it's like, who do you think you are, Steven Spielberg? I mean, he's on that level. I think we're lucky that he's as moral as he is, even though he is, I get why people find him cloying and over sentimental.
But his heart's in the right place, though.
Yeah,
that's something I can always say about him is that regardless of the film, it's like his heart's in the right place. Whether or not the outcome whether the outcome of that particular movie is kind of sometimes varies.
Yeah, I mean, these days we are very into people only doing what they know in terms of biography. I mean, but I think for him to take on The Color Purple when he did, that was a beautiful thing. Even if it hadn't worked and it did work, it was beautiful of him to take on Amistad. These movies wouldn't have gotten made otherwise. I know we can say, well, it's a white guy interloping. Well, I guess, I don't know. I mean, I give him a lot of credit. I give him credit just watching Jurassic Park 2 and seeing that Jeff Goldblum's daughter is African American. I'm like, he doesn't have to do that. He doesn't have to focus on that. And another thing about just in general, people often talk about his obsession with absent fathers and single mothers. It's funny because that wasn't his experience, but yet it sort of was. He felt like his mom. He described her as Peter Pan, like they would just hang out. Because his dad was always doing work. But I actually do think he made the world a little easier for kids like me who were raised by single mothers in a weird way. That it seemed like he took the stigma off a little bit. So I give him credit for all those things. Yes, it's sometimes schlocky. I can't forgive Indiana Jones 4. I agree with that. Every word South Park said about that movie is true.
I only liked Raiders.
Let's not derail
for the rest of the series.
Yeah. Sorry, what'd you say, Steve?
I only liked Raiders of the indie films.
Right. But anyway, I mean, he clearly can do a lot. I mean, his technical virtuosity, knowing where to put the camera. I mean, we've been lucky to have him because he has.
Plus his. Acting as a producer and film restoration, along with Marty Scorsese. I think they've saved a lot of films, the two of them.
Yep, absolutely.
My favorite in particular, Lawrence of Arabia.
Yep. If
it wasn't for the two of them, most of that film would be lost.
Wow. Yep. He gave a lot of money to film schools, all over the place. Film departments all around the country. I mean, no, he's been very cool. I mean, you got to give him a lot of credit. He could have shrunk away, or whatever. I mean, I think about how George Lucas reacted to being suddenly the biggest, thing in the world. He kind of just couldn't. I think on some level he couldn't or didn't want to handle it. He kind of shrunk away. Whereas Spielberg just kept making movies and producing movies, which is very lucky for us, I think.
Yeah.